Welcome back to the Up Gyrl Podcast. I am Kyra. All right, let's welcome Carrie to the show. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and have this conversation today.
Fantastic. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell our audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Carrie Bradley, and I am a mindset and strategy coach and consultant. And so I center a lot of my work on freedom and helping people to discover more freedom in their lives. And specifically, I spend a lot of time with women, helping them to build and expand on their own sense of financial freedom. And so we do that through my process of clarity, mindset, and strategy, and really just helping people to live a higher quality of life that's in alignment with their values and their dreams.
Awesome. I love that. So, all right. Well, I want to start by asking you the word freedom is something that I think a lot of people who listen to this show, obviously, there are a lot of women and some men who listen. So I don't want to leave my men out, but a lot of women who are, workingpreneurs. They're either already entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals. And a lot of times, I think some conversations and things that I've heard, like even in my own friend groups over the last few years, has been people wanting to just feel like they have more freedom. So when you think about the word freedom, or you think about like some of the clients that you work with, what does freedom look like to them?
Yes, I love this question. And the way that I see it is that to me, freedom means having choice and being able to live authentically. So, what that means is to be able to show up truly as you are without fear, without coercion, without expectations of others coming in the way of you
Mhm.
being able to embrace that and live into it. And so maybe that looks like having financial freedom to have more choices to do with what you will with your time.
Mhm.
Or maybe for another person, it's I want to feel a sense of purpose and meaning in the work that I do. That's what feels freeing to me. And so really it does come back to that alignment with your values, who you are as a person, and being
Mhm.
able to openly express that without concern or guilt or fear coming at you for that
Mhm.
expression.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for that, because I do think, like you just mentioned, guilt and fear. Those are the first things that attack people when you start. Because I say this because probably like 2 years ago, I am a workingpreneur, so I do have a day job. And I remember like one day I was just like working at my desk, and the word like freedom just like came to my mind. And I was like, oh my God, wouldn't that be like amazing, right? And immediately, like you said, there's you like have to determine what that means for you, right? And so when I determined that for me, because like I feel pretty free to show up as me and who I am, even in my current workplace, right? But it was, oh, I need more time. Time is like going so quickly. I want to have the time to, spend with my family. My parents are getting older. I want to have time to like see them more, visit with them, all those things. And I was like, and it's really hard to do that, when you are juggling lots of things. And so I do think that that is, but it's the fear of like, how do you get there, right? It's that like, well, how do I make that happen? What do I have to give up in order? Because I mean, we do sometimes have to sacrifice something in order to make another dream happen. So it's like, what do I have to give up to get there? So I really appreciate you just taking it from all those angles, because it also can be financial freedom, which a lot of us want also.
Yeah. Gosh, I love what you're sharing here because you're right. Like having the resource of money, for example,
Hmm.
has the ability to free up the
Yeah.
time to do what you want with that time.
Hmm.
That is the
Hmm.
one resource that we can't get back. So,
Yes.
right. So, like, really asking those questions. And I think oftentimes you'll discover that underneath some of the choices that we've made, it's living according to the expectations of what we think we should be doing.
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily what we truly want, which, like you said, sometimes there's risk involved,
Right. Yeah.
there's trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
But I really believe that when you follow your heart and you let that guide your decisions, abundance, wealth, all of
Mm-hmm.
that in all of its forms does follow
Mm-hmm.
you. And so really it's that courage to sort of let go of those expectations and really trust
Mm-hmm.
yourself that like
Mm-hmm.
if I listen to what I want,
Right.
good
Yeah.
things are going to come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely, and I agree with that. I think that is, I think that's very true. And I think like just that speaking positively to ourselves and affirming ourselves and what it is that we say we want. And I think you also mentioned like risk because yes, sometimes you have to be willing to take like a calculated risk. Is the risk worth the reward? And I
Mm,
think sometimes like people are just like, oh, that's okay. I don't want to.
yeah.
And I don't want to. And I'll just continue on and then I'll be, upset and do this thing that I'm currently doing when it's just like maybe you just have to, like you said, you have to step out on faith or whatever you see fit to do to follow what it is you say that you really want.
Yes. Yes. And you bring
Yeah.
up a good point, which is everybody has a different risk tolerance. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about this a lot with money. And
Mm-hmm.
so I do think it's important to assess like,
Mm-hmm.
do I think I can handle what might destabilize my life
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
choose this, which I really believe with the right support, you absolutely can handle those things.
Mm-hmm.
But to really ask, like, is the cost of, rocking the boat and making this big change going to
Mm-hmm.
be worth what I receive? And what I found is if it's authentic, if
Mm-hmm.
it's true to you and what you want,
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe it's always worth the risk. And yes, it's
Yeah.
hard and there's so much you might have to
Mm-hmm.
overcome to get to it. But
Mm-hmm.
once you get over to the other side, it's like, wow, you realize
Yeah.
what you're capable of, and what actually is there for you to receive. So,
Yes, I love that. Now, so let's talk about you because obviously you would not be telling others and sharing all this good work with other people of how to do it if you hadn't done it for yourself. So, can you talk about, how you reached financial independence? And I believe you did this without a college degree in
mhm.
less than 4 years as an entrepreneur and a single mom.
Yeah. I know sometimes I'm like, how did this happen? Because it sounds a little wild, a little crazy when you think about it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm happy to give you some context in my story, which is kind of what led me through a wild
Hmm.
awakening to myself as a woman. And so, I'm thankful that when I was younger, my dad, he did teach me quite a bit about financial literacy.
Hmm.
So he got me investing in the stock market when I was young, and I learned a little bit. I've always been curious about money and how to make it work.
Hmm.
And so I've had some knowledge, and then I got married in my early 20s and just did the mom thing. For a long time, I supported
Hmm.
my now ex-husband's business. And through that time period, I just started to realize I got to a point in my life where I was supporting everybody else. And I'm like,
Hmm.
what up? What do I want? What is my dream?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
really good at like making other people's dreams and lives happen, but like, so I started flipping it around, and this is now the basis of my recent book that I released, which we can talk about in a little bit, but asking, okay, what do I want? And following that. And so what that led to was a realization that where my ex-husband and I were at in our lives were at very different places. We had different
Mhm.
goals. I really wanted to pursue financial freedom, and I just don't think that was his value. And so we realized like
Mhm.
this is not aligned anymore. And so what happened after that is we separated.
Mhm.
And I had at the time very recently launched my coaching business.
Mhm.
And so when we separated, I did not have financial stability at all. I didn't even know where my next paycheck was going to come from
Mhm.
because it was just this new thing. And There was no
Mhm.
child support, no alimony, nothing really coming in. And so, so as I was going through this very difficult time, it was destabilizing, but also I was like, I want to follow my dreams. And so, I had to work through so many fears, so many
Mhm.
insecurities. And, at the time I was like trying to figure money out. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I
Mhm.
going to, am I ever going to get to financial freedom in a
Mhm.
situation like this?
Right.
And so in that time period, I started to shift my perspective quite a bit. And part of that was I learned to play more with money and
Mm.
to start spending some on like pleasure because I was very practical. Everything was about
Mhm.
being responsible and paying bills. And I just didn't really know how to have fun with money. And so now looking back, I realized that I didn't have a healthy relationship with money.
Mm.
It was
Mhm.
very restrictive, a lot of guilt. And so I started letting myself play. And that started to shift my perspective. Like I calmed down about the whole thing. My body started to regulate more. And so then as that was happening, I decided to hire myself a coach and I had savings still that I was living off of, but we started working on the mindset piece around
Mhm.
money. And it was unbelievable to me what happened in that time period, which was, within a few years after divorcing, I made my first six-figure year income. I did have to end up going to court to kind of work through all of our asset distribution.
Mhm.
And so that was the first time where I was really advocating for myself
Right.
and asserting myself in these decisions. And had I not done the mindset work and really worked up the courage to do that, I wouldn't have walked away with we had some real estate assets that turned into my favor. I really didn't get any aspect of his business, but I did receive that as an asset. And so
Mhm.
so I was doing the mindset work, changing my perspective as I was feeling anxiety every time I was stressing about money. I chose not to fixate on those thoughts and to
Mhm.
instead, like literally retrain my mind to believe in abundance and to
Mm.
trust like everything's going to work out. As I did that work, it calmed my whole body and it helped me to see the opportunities that were going to generate more revenue for me or the
Mhm.
clients that, were right fits, but I couldn't see before because I was too stressed about the numbers. So
Right.
it really started to shift everything in a powerful direction. And so what happened was after those court decisions were made, I paid off one of my properties. And then 4 months later, I paid off my primary residence. So then I was debt free and I could live off the passive income from my rental
Mhm.
property. And now that's what we call financial freedom when you have the option to work,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
at this point, my work with clients is completely optional, but I love it. I'm going to continue doing it. But this
Mhm.
is what I tell people. And when I coach people, it's so 80 to 90% of the work is in the mindset.
Mhm.
There are these inner resources that we have. And when we focus in on those and change the narratives and the stories that we
Mhm.
have, it changes everything in your life. All these
Mhm.
manifestations occur. And so, it was a wild time. So this was 4 years after
Mhm.
divorce that
Mhm.
thing happened. And I thought it was going to take 15 plus years to get here.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't. And this, I don't know, maybe you've heard the term like quantum leap
Mhm. Uh-huh.
or collapsing timelines. I've heard where it's like when you really start to channel your mind and your body and your energy in this
Mhm.
way, big things happen in a very short amount of time. So
Mhm.
those were like some of the major steps along my journey. This is how I kind of
Yeah.
this place today.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much for sharing that. I think a couple of things because for one, it was a risk for you to step away, right? To step and leave and separate and get a divorce. I mean, you could have said, "Oh, okay, well, I'm just going to stay in this because it's financially, it feels stable, right? To be in this place." And you also mentioned that you said, "I didn't know where my next paycheck was going to come, but I'm still going to do this." I'm going to step out and I'm going to do this. And also, too, I think I want to commend this because I know a lot of times it's really hard for people when they think financially that like they can't pick up a coach or someone that can help them. I mean, you hear it a lot of times with like therapy, and I feel like obviously therapy has gotten a lot better because it's covered in with insurance and stuff now. I've always told like coaches and stuff, I was like, coaching should also be covered under insurance. I
It
mean, it like really should be. But I just feel like also too, like you took a step where a lot of times people will be like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I can afford that. And it's like that step you took is like also what helped you to
Yes.
be able to get to that freedom that that your heart desired.
Yes, you said it because, and that reminds me of confidence. A lot of people think I have to feel confident or certain
Hmm.
about where I'm headed before I can take the step. But
Yeah.
actually, it's you take the step first and the confidence comes.
Hmm.
Then you
Hmm.
realize what you're capable of. You realize, like, okay,
Yeah.
I took this risk. I survived.
Yeah.
Actually, now I'm thriving. And right? So
Yeah.
that's how it works. And I get it. It is scary when
Hmm.
you're stepping into the unknown, into some
Yeah.
uncertain life.
It is, but I would definitely say, like, for the people that I've seen that have taken the step and they've done it and they've given up, oftentimes it's like giving up like what seems like stable jobs and paychecks. I mean, I've seen those people thrive. I've seen those people be happier in their life, healthier, because
Yeah.
they don't have the stress of like all the things that they were carrying because they were 9 out of 10 times, and not always. It's not always the case. Okay, we'll go with like 6 out of 10. A lot of times people are not maybe happy in the work situation that they're in, and they have to stay in it because they make good money, it pays their bills. But people that I've seen like make those turns and say, you know what, I'm going to do this for me. I'm
Mhm.
going to bet on me. And I've seen those people like win. I don't think I've seen one of those people that did that have to go back. And you know what? And sometimes if you have to go back to like a job, so what? I mean, at least you tried.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's the important thing is like at least you tried. I mean, I think like one of I've talked a lot of this year about like affirmations and affirming, just being affirming myself. And one of the affirmations I read that in 2025, it's like I'm going to do things basically and not live with like regret. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to do the thing. And if it doesn't work out, fine.
Yeah.
Start
Yeah.
again.
Love that because too, you never fail. If you go into it with the mindset of there's something I'm going to learn here about
Mm-hmm.
myself, about what I want or what I
Yeah.
don't want. And when you take that approach, you can't lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say it won't be hard, or
Yeah.
challenging, but like you said, yeah, like why not try it and
Yeah.
see because you
Yeah.
might discover there's a huge reward on the other side.
Exactly. And I mean, I think too, like I had a old manager who later became a friend, manager slash friend who said, like, we're gonna fail fast.
Yeah.
Just fail fast. If you fail fast, you get the learnings and you do it again. You try something different. And that's never like left my mind. I always hear her saying like fail fast. So whenever I'm in situations like even being like a workingpreneur, like there are things that I'm willing to do in my everyday business that I'm like, why not? I mean, what do I have to lose?
Yes, right.
No.
Right. And that brings up a thought for me too around the idea of stability or security.
Hmm.
Because I think that is one thing that does hold people back. It's
Hmm.
I want to feel secure and that
Yeah.
don't feel that way when I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone
Yeah.
or into something new. But in a
Hmm.
way, I think it is a bit of an illusion,
Hmm.
right? Like when you step out and you take that risk, you do what I call you build an inner stability within yourself
Hmm.
because again, you're like realizing what
Yeah.
I'm capable of. And so then it's like, wow, what else could I try? If I
Right. Yeah.
survived this or if I grew from this experience,
Yeah.
and every time you do that, it's like you're cultivating that feeling of security,
Hmm.
of like knowing who you are, what you're
Hmm.
able to do, and then the outer circumstances don't really bother you because you've shown
Yeah.
yourself like, I've done
Yeah.
this, I can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. And I think to your point, like I definitely think it's like 100% about like the mindset. It's mindset, and it's also like the people that you have in the circle,
yeah,
right? Because if you're in a circle where people are always like, well, I don't know if you should do that because, like, what happens if it fails? And then what are you going to do then? And it's like, no, 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 this is not what I need. Like, you do, aside from your own mindset and you speaking positively to yourself and telling yourself that, like, you're making the right choices and you're going to go for it, you have to have people around you who are going to support and, sort of be a cheerleader to help you on the way, because nobody wants a person who's like the Debbie Downer. Like every time you
right.
got an idea, they're like, well, I just see that like some skit from Saturday Night Live where it's like that lady who was always like a downer or something. And
Yeah,
it's like,
totally. I mean,
yeah.
this is a phenomenal point that you're making because when I look back on my journey and I left, I also left the people who weren't truly supporting
Hmm.
me. Like all
Hmm.
the old friends, the partner, they didn't do that. And
Hmm.
so then I welcome in these people who do want to
Yeah.
cheer me on.
Yeah.
And boy, that changes.
Yes.
When you have that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
energy and encouragement around you all the time,
Yeah.
it's
It's, yeah, I
life.
love that. It's definitely like they say, like you want to have like-minded people, right, in your circle. And you want people who you can learn from, people who will cheer you on. And there is a difference there. It's a difference when there's just the people who are always, like you said, are just always kind of stuck. Like
Yeah.
stuck, and they're saying, and it's the same story. Oh, I hate what I'm doing, blah, blah. What are you gonna do about it? I don't know. I just hate what I'm doing, blah. It's like,
Right? Oh, I know.
do you have a plan? And like, don't tell me about it. Like, I don't want to hear,
Right.
I don't want you bringing me down. And there's nothing worse than, side note, but there's nothing worse when there's somebody always asking you for like advice, and you're giving out this free advice and you're giving out these great ideas, and then they never do anything with it. They
Right.
only come back to tell you again that, oh yeah, I really like, I don't know, like I don't know, what should I be doing? The thing that I told you the last time we talked.
Right. Am I wasting my breath here? Like,
Yes.
you actually gonna take action?
Yeah, yes. Like,
Yeah.
please do something. Do you need me to draw the entire roadmap? Because I've given you like the points on the map. I just didn't draw it out, but maybe you can put a timeline to it and actually just do it.
Right. Right. That execution is
Right.
everything. Yes. I hear
Um,
you.
there's another thing you said, Carrie, that I really, really appreciate. And I think is so true. You talked about the relationship with money, and you talked about actually going out and spending money on things that you enjoy. Now, I think, is this a part of your pleasure-based wealth
Yeah,
process?
it is.
So, can we talk about that? Because I know that's a really big thing. I even struggle with that sometimes myself.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So when I went through that time period, I was like, it's time to feel good with money. Like,
Hmm.
I want to stop overanalyzing this stuff and trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I did is I took my kids on a vacation and I called
Hmm.
it packing the pleasure. And on that trip, we did all these uncharacteristic things for me, where I rented their favorite car. At
Yeah.
the time, it was a Tesla. Now they're very common, but this was several years ago. And I surprised them with it. We had so much fun driving around in Florida, and we did deep sea fishing experiences and ate lots of ice cream and kayaked
Hmm.
through the mangroves, like all this stuff. We just had fun. That was the whole
Hmm.
point. And that really taught me so much about letting go of guilt,
Hmm.
not restricting yourself, and the power of just investing in what feels good to you, whether that's a
Hmm.
trip or maybe you invest in a support person. Like,
Hmm.
I remember when I dropped 10 grand on my first coach, and it was just like, oh my gosh. But at the same time, I was like,
Hmm.
I'm worth it,
Hmm.
really worth it. And so A large part of what I do in this pleasure-based wealth process is, first of all, challenging the notion that you have to sacrifice and compromise and hustle and grind to get to
Mm-hmm.
financial freedom. You absolutely do not.
Mm-hmm.
You can get stuff done that way. But also, when you cultivate like a healthier dynamic with money and you're not
Mm-hmm.
reacting to it and you're not pushing it away, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women I know, especially, struggle to receive money, they're
Mm-hmm.
to give. And so there's all these funny ways we block ourselves off from receiving. And so that's an aspect of like, let it in and let it feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, it's almost like, are you familiar with attachment wounds with like anxiously attached people or avoidant people? It's something that's in the psychology and the therapy world where we all relate
Mm-hmm.
to people and attach to people in certain
Right.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are really anxious and we just need to
Mm-hmm.
like be reassured a lot.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
avoidant. We like withdraw because it's too much. And
Yeah.
this is a secure person, which is like, we're good. We're relating, we're
Mm-hmm.
healthy. And it's the same with money. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. So if you have those dynamics in your relationships with people, there's a high likelihood it's going to play out in
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with money in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's now like, so take an anxiously attached person like I was where it's learning to trust, like money's here to take care of me and I can use it to feel good and I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to hold on to guilt and I don't have to restrict myself in order to feel freedom, right? So those are kind of like some of the ideas around pleasure that I welcome in is encouraging people to play with your
Mm-hmm.
money, to receive it when it shows up,
Mm-hmm.
and and to really just enjoy it. And that kind of brings us into a more embodied experience of like feeling so good and healthy with money and
Mm-hmm.
gratitude for it.
Mm-hmm.
So so I hope I'm explaining that well, but that's kind
Yeah.
of like some of the parts.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think like too, it's just like also just people being comfortable or more so like a lot of women just being comfortable having the conversations about it. Because
Yes.
so many times people
Yes.
just like shut down and it's like, nope, don't want to talk about this money. or and
Yeah.
I think it's like that fear of like, especially when you talk about like investing and what to do with the money. And then a lot of times, women are, I don't know, like so I definitely love when we have people here who encourage women to learn all they can, invest, spend it.
Yes.
Use it. It's there. Like, like you said, don't feel guilt. I mean, like, come on, don't blow it. But, but
Sure.
don't feel like you can't do something nice for yourself because it's like we do all work. I mean, you can't just work to pay bills. Like you have to like find play. I love that it's like pleasure based because it is. It's like what's a pleasurable thing? Because it, like you mentioned, it could be something as simple as like, oh well, I'm going to Jenny's ice cream shop. Like I'm not gonna buy like the Breyers version. Jenny's is like the sport. Like I'm saying this because I do this. Like Jenny's is like it's an ice cream shop that's here in Atlanta. It may be like world countries across the country, but I just know like they have shops here and it's like, it's not cheap ice cream,
Yeah.
right? And then but you get this little pint like you can get out of the grocery store. It's like $9. And they have like it's like a ooey gooey, like it's almost like a cake batter. It's like ooey gooey
Mhm.
something, and it's so good. And I don't buy it all the time because first of all, I don't want to eat sweets all the time like that, right? But whenever I'm like, you know what? I want some ice cream this weekend. My treat to myself is going to be getting that Jenny's ice cream. And I'm like, so what? I don't care that it's $9. I deserve it. I'm getting it for me.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that. Jenny's is so good, by the way. You can't get a bad ice cream in there.
Right. Yes.
And two, yeah, what I tell people is like when you do that, fully enjoy it. If it's
Yes.
ice cream
Hmm.
or if it's, I don't know, maybe you get a manicure,
Hmm.
um, or one of my clients, she was telling me she loves to go to Whole Foods for her shopping
Hmm.
experience, her groceries.
Hmm.
because of the environment, just like
Uh-huh.
it's
Yeah.
really nourishing to her. And I said to her, I was
Hmm.
like, good, go there and just make fully be in the whole experience.
Yeah.
Smell the flavors, the scents,
Yeah.
the flowers, the
Yeah.
food, like touch the things, like
Hmm. It is very, yeah, I agree with, it is definitely an experience, right? Going there. And I love this because what I like about it is that it doesn't have to be like you said, I mean, if it is a trip, fantastic. But I think you can just find the little things that bring you pleasure that maybe sometimes we don't really think about as being pleasurable. But as we were talking, I was just thinking about all those things. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely getting all those books that I have in my cart because I mean, I like to read. Can I read all five of the books that I'm going to buy at one time? Nope. But I'm still going to get them because I want them. And I'm going to line them up and I'm going to read them one by, I'm going to read them. But it's like, it's not like a big spend, but it's something that's going to make me like feel really good.
Yeah, I love that in that you're recognizing that because that's the thing. I know for me too, I'll put things in my cart and I sit on them. And then I'm
Hmm.
like, wait a minute, what is the payoff I'm going to get if I invest in this? And when I think
Hmm.
about it, like you said, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel so good and inspired and I'm gonna
Hmm.
have more knowledge. So of course, like, so to
Yeah.
go through that mental process to
Yeah.
see that,
Yeah.
that payoff helps
Yeah.
you kind of pull the trigger and hit
Hmm.
the buy button.
Bye.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Kurt.
Yes.
So a question I have. So when you're talking to your clients, someone comes in and they are saying, I want to find this freedom, financial, emotional freedom in my life. Where do you start? What's the first thing you would do with someone who is interested in working with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I guess I generally start with clarity because that's usually always the first step is to really say, okay, what do you actually want in your life? So,
Mhm.
because behind a financial goal, there's always a feeling state that we
Mhm.
anticipate is going to provide us. So maybe it's confidence, maybe it's the
Mhm.
feeling of choice, freedom, that kind of thing. Maybe it's, yeah,
Mhm.
lightness. So we kind of determine, well, what does freedom mean to you? What is the feeling? But then getting clear on also what are your values? So, for example, I have a lot
Mhm.
of clients who are pretty wealthy and
Mhm.
successful on the outside, but
Mhm.
they don't feel that on the inside.
Mm.
That's where we get into like emotional freedom and being able to recognize your own worth and your own ability to like
Mhm.
create all this. And now you
Right.
now you
Mhm.
got to see it, right? And like live
Mhm.
into
Mhm.
that. And sometimes there can be a misalignment of, oh, I'm working this job, I'm making great money, but I don't
Mhm.
love it. And so
Right.
that's getting clear on, well, what do you love? What are your
Mhm.
values? And if they're not aligned with what you're spending your time on, right
Right.
there is you're not free.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like clarifying what do you want the money for? How do you want to feel? And
Mhm.
what are your values? Are those lining up with your choices right now?
Right.
So that, yeah, that's kind of where
Mm.
we start. And it's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
little different for everybody, but you can't really take action or even employ a lot of the mindset work until you're clear on
Mhm.
matters the most to you in your
Mhm.
life.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I love that because I think that definitely is the place that you would need to start. All right, so let's talk about your book,
Yeah.
Dare to Desire. Can you talk about why you wrote it, the themes of the book?
Yes. So I have a copy right here. I'll
All
hold
right. Yeah.
it up. Yes, I wrote this book. Well, I never really set out to be a published author. I
Hmm.
have a business mentor, and one day he was like, "You should write a book. You have so much to say." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I love a challenge. So I was like, "Well, why not?" And so as I had gone through my radical shift and transformation in my life, kind
Hmm.
of going out on my own, I was capturing a lot of what I was experiencing and journaling about that.
Hmm.
And so I took components from my story, but then also pieces from some of my client stories and other women that I've heard who have very
Mm-hmm.
similar journeys where, the premise of this is around that clarity piece of like asking, what do I want for my life? Daring to desire.
Mm-hmm.
So saying, I think I want more. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
that more is,
Right.
but I'm going to listen to it and then I'm going to give myself permission to go after it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did in the book, I kind of broke some rules here where I blended fiction and self-help together. So
Okay.
it follows the story of a woman named Kelly, and
Mm-hmm.
it's her journey of asking that question, like, what do I want for my life? And how that question led to her ultimate freedom at the end, and the fears that she had to travel through to
Mm-hmm.
get to it, the things she had to let go of, the changes she had to make. And
Mm-hmm.
along with every chapter of her journey is a section on practical self-help things that the reader can apply in their life that
Mm-hmm.
respond to what she's going through. So like maybe it's around boundaries or
Mm-hmm. Oh,
self-compassion.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, all different, like living in integrity and all these grief.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a grief chapter. So it was inspired by my journey and then also witnessing these other women's journey. And really, I wanted to write it as a big permission slip to
Mm-hmm.
listen to yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
trust yourself, to believe that when you confront your fears, on the other side of that is
Right.
freedom waiting
Yeah.
for you, and
Yeah.
really to inspire that action.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just kind of did a little writing every day for 2 years because people are like, how'd you write a book and have a business? And never underestimate the power of small steps over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
all I did, 20 minutes a day for a couple of years. And then one day I was like, wow, I guess this is a book. And you go through the next stage, but yeah, so really just
Awesome.
cool to inspire and support people on their journey.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so now you have to tell us, okay, how can people connect to you and how can they work with you and where can they buy the book?
Yeah. So if people want to connect with me, they can either go to my website, which is carriebradley.com, or I'm very active on Instagram. So I post there every day to offer tips and insights and inspiration
Okay.
for people's journeys. So that's Carrie Bradley Coaching on Instagram. And how do I work with people? That was the other
Mm-hmm.
question.
Yes.
Yeah, so right now I primarily only work one-to-one with clients.
Okay.
And on my website, you can see the different offerings that I have, but I just absolutely love the one-to-one relationship because what I found is you can experience so much more, generally more change when you're in that focused
Mm-hmm.
interaction. So that's how I work. Although I am starting to branch out a little more. I'm developing a group coaching program with
Okay.
another friend of mine on, your vision and bringing that, making
Mm-hmm.
it more visible through your voice. So kind of like a speaking.
Uh-huh.
So that's on deck. Um, but yeah, so now I'm kind of speaking a little more and teaching more widely, but for the most part, I'm still in that one-to-one model.
Awesome.
And in terms of the book,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon is the best place to find it. So yeah, you can just look up Dare to Desire and there's both a Kindle and paperback available there.
So I love that. All right. Okay. Well, let's transition. I've got three things with Carrie. So I'm going to ask you three questions that just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. First question is a two-parter. How do you start and end the day?
Oh, well, I love that question. Well, I start my day with my non-negotiable self-care routine,
Mm-hmm.
which pretty much it consists of my morning coffee, my reading time, so all my self-help. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, I do a 15-minute meditation to really just center into myself and set the
Mm-hmm.
tone for the day. And then when I end my day, it's kind of similar to how I started. I will go into
Mm-hmm.
my bed and just kind of do this wind down routine of reflecting, like,
Uh-huh.
what did I learn today? What would I like to do differently tomorrow? And then I read a little bit of another. I love reading, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I
Lots of,
love that.
lots of reading in my life. Mm.
Yes. All right. The second question is what's a goal or an intention that you set for yourself this year?
Gosh, yeah, this is wonderful. I actually was actively engaging this today, which is I'm looking for my next real estate property, and I went to look at one with my agent earlier today. I don't know if it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna work out, but I just love the idea of creating more and more passive income to
Mm-hmm.
resource myself so
Mm-hmm.
that I can resource other people and make my services affordable to anybody and
Mm-hmm.
be able to teach more widely. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see. I have a
Awesome.
feeling it's coming, but
All right. Well, and the last question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
oh my gosh. Oh, I will say so many places. I find a lot of inspiration in music,
Mm-hmm.
in art. I make art with my children sometimes. I find a lot of inspiration in reading people that
Mm-hmm.
I really admire. And honestly, through the people that I surround myself with now, it's like, we talked about letting
Mm-hmm.
go of the people who don't support you and
Mm-hmm.
welcoming in the ones that do. And what I've noticed is those people are so inspiring. They
Mm-hmm.
invite me to rise higher, to go for the thing that feels
Yeah.
scary and stretch further than I have before. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I
inspiration
love it.
yeah, it's everywhere.
Well, Carrie, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming and sharing with the community. It has been a pleasure talking to you today. I love everything about what you're doing and how you're helping women.
Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and it's been such a delight to hear your thoughts and questions and share the space
Mhm.
with you. So thank you so much for
Yeah. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you one final thing, and that is, what are three things you would like for our audience to take away from the conversation today?
Oh, gosh, three things. Okay. The number one thing that I'm always saying to people is to trust yourself, first of all, to really listen to that inner voice that
Mhm.
knows the answers to the questions that you have.
Mhm.
The second thing I would say is freedom is not as far away as you think it is. And the third thing I would say is I believe the risk to listen to yourself will always be worth it, and the reward is waiting for you.
Awesome. I love that. Well, she has laid the blueprint, my friend. So all we have to do is just listen and follow and do and follow your heart. And I love that. So, Carrie, thank you so much again. You can always come back here and visit with us in the future.
Wonderful. I would love that. Thank you so much, Kyra.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone.